Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Sometimes in the past I have done random reviews on films that are slightly odd, and today is no different. We're going back to 1971 and Saignee, directed by Claude Mullo, who, if you look at Letterboxd, has done not that many films, and some of them are pixelated, so they're naughty. This is also known as The Contract, Manhunt for Murder and Bleeding. This is the Smoking Cat Company Blu-ray. It's a French Blu-ray. It does have a lot of extras, interviews with actors and writers and directors and presentations at festivals and things like that. As I said, I think it was lost for a while and then it's been resurrected. It's a simple story of a waiter in New York who accidentally walks into a room after two people have been shot by somebody, and is then on the run and ends up flying out of America back to France, to his small hometown, where he hopes to lie low. He gets a room in his mum's restaurant, but she's not too happy to see him because he left without a word to go to America. But he's followed to his small town by the investigating police officer from New York and an assassin from New York. So all very standard, so why is it odd? Well, it's odd in that way that the New York scenes are acted by people who aren't American, but they're speaking English, so it has that odd kind of delivery. The way in Hong Kong films the person who's playing the American just sounds very strange. It's the same here. The cop who's investigating and ends up going to France is this tall blonde man who, I mean, this was the same year as Dirty Harry. I don't know whether it was an influence on either film, but his way of interviewing female witnesses is slapping them about and trying to drown them. And the assassin, so New York, speaks English, and then obviously when they get to France they speak French perfectly normally. But again, some of the translation into the English is a little bit strange, so it kind of has that going for it. It has this song entitled One Day You'll Die, which is the title song, and it kind of makes an appearance later in the film as well. I didn't actually check who sang it, but it's kind of like a D-grade Burt Bacharach song. It has that kind of lush accompaniment with it, but the title is One Day You'll Die. It could almost be like a very bad Bond theme. So it has that kind of strangeness to it. It has a couple of just wonderful set pieces. When he goes to the town, it's run by Claude Serval, who you might recognise his face, and he pretty much has fingers in all the pies in town. So when the waiter comes back and tries to get a job, he's pretty much ordered him for nobody to give him a job, and of course because he messed about with the daughter of the boss of the town, essentially, who has a little child now. She's married to one of the more annoying members of the town kind of hierarchy. So when that group of men are going on a hunting party, it kind of ends up being a lynch mob almost for this young guy, and it takes place in mud flats, and men end up being completely naked, and there's lots of full frontal nudity. But then the assassin and the cop, who are kind of a little bit like Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood and For a Few Dollars More, they start off antagonising each other, but then they kind of team up, and then they turn up as these men have somehow stripped him naked and he's covered in mud, and then they get their own just desserts from the cop and the assassin. The kind of showdown at the end is on a school bus. Again, I don't know whether Dirty Harry came first in 1971 or The Contract / Bleeding / Manhunt for Murder, Le Saignee came first, but its closing scene is on a school bus, and it's very moving. There's a really moving scene where the assassin has caught up with the girlfriend of the waiter who's left town in New York, and he takes her out to the countryside somewhere to ask her questions, and she has this beautiful monologue about, there's a lovely river and the trees and the sun's out, and she's talking about, I wonder what it was like in the first day in the Garden of Eden, when everything was so innocent and the lambs didn't know the wolves, which is just a beautiful line. So it has this kind of odd feel. The characters, especially when they're speaking English, are delivering this odd dialogue in an odd way, and then it has there's a kind of through line of absurdity, and it does feel like a director who has made naughty films making a genre thriller, but not quite knowing the beats of what a thriller is. So it has just this strangeness to it. There's even, in a dinner scene with Claude Serval as the head of the town, essentially, he's got like red Mario Bava lighting on one side of his face. It's just odd, but it's really enjoyably odd. It's only 80 odd minutes, so it doesn't hang about, it flies by, because you are just fascinated by the strangeness of it. And again, this kind of Z grade Burt Bacharach One Day You'll Die song in the background. It's a really odd mix, and it's a really odd film, but it's actually well worth checking out if you're that way inclined. Has a couple of wonderful set pieces, as I say, and the song will probably get in your head. As I said, this edition has a bunch of extras, and it's a really wonderful little discovery. Again, not for everybody, but again, most of the films that I talk about in this channel aren't for everybody. Well worth a look. I just randomly got this on eBay because the cover looked interesting, and it's turned out to be as interesting as the cover looks. So thanks very much for watching this very random review of La Saignee. Please, if you've seen it, let me know what you think of it. Or is it as odd as I'm describing? And hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.